Ain't nothing worse than a smart dumb.
Los Angeles Nakers.
Okay, all right, so good afternoon, everybody. We are back with another episode of the Smart Dumb Podcast, one of the few that's adding to the list of video, but I am perfectly fine with that. I am very honored and very pleased to have a guest with me. You know, we all just happen to be networking, looking for similar goals, and I found a gentleman who I'm excited to share his story about with you all. So what I always do is I leave the floor open for introductions. So the floor is yours.
Hi, Jamal. Thank you so much for inviting me on. And the first thing I'm going to say is how very polite and courteous you are, which is lovely. I love how you introduce me as sir, and I love your manners. That doesn't often happen. So my name's Benedict Beaumont. I am a breathwork facilitator. I have a company called Breathing Space, and I teach people the magic of breathwork.
Perfect. Wonderful. I'm so glad to see that made it so easy. And we will talk about, you, and I'm sure that'll come up along the way. But since you already said teaching, I think that's a perfect segue. We both realize that we have in common that we have an education background. I guess mine is current, and you previously taught. And so now you have a company that also has some form of education, some form of teaching, allowing others to build, the skill that you have and build what's inside of them. So, can you just start with that? Like, what got you into, traditional teaching at first?
That's a really interesting story. So by the time I hit my 30s, I was a failed rock star. I was a failed football player. I was working in the IT industry, earning quite a good living, but hating what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I hadn't become rich and famous as I was hoping to do. And I got to a point in my life where I looked in the mirror and I really didn't like the person that I saw in front of me. I saw someone who's very selfish, someone who's very arrogant, someone who's very self-centered. And I had a long, hard look at myself and I thought, what actually am I doing with my life? I'm not adding to anything. I'm just selfishly running after my own pleasure or my own success. And I was a bit disgusted, really. So I had a long think about what is it that I wanted to do with my life? What is it that I wanted my legacy to be almost? And it didn't want to be just all about me. I wanted to give something back. I wanted to add something. I wanted to leave the world a better place than I found it. So it wasn't an immediate decision. I spent, I think, 4 or 5 months in a process that I went through, and it actually started in California. I started in the Joshua Tree National Desert, strangely, where I had a breakdown, if you like. Everything had gone wrong in the UK. I got on a plane to the States, and I went on a road trip because I had a friend out there, and I just thought, okay, this has got to stop right now. So I was graced a period of reflection of about 3 or 4 months, and I went around and I asked everyone who knew me, what do you think I should do with my life? And there must have been 20 or 30 people, friends, colleagues, people I knew really well, people I trusted, some people I didn't know so very well, but I trusted their opinion. And I said, what do you think I should do with my life? You know me, you know my skills, you know what I can do, what I can offer. And many of them said, you should be a teacher. You are just a natural communicator. You're also a bit of a show off. And so having a captive audience will probably fit you down to the ground. So I trained to be a teacher, and it is a move that I have never, ever regretted for many different reasons. I was given an opportunity to help change people's lives. and I worked in deprived schools in England in areas of, you know, low economic, low ambition, low aspirations. I was able to be that special teacher to many kids who would have fallen out of the system and who would have failed. And I know that I had that impact. I was that special teacher that we all have, you know, someone in our lives. I got to be that person as well, which was an incredible gift.
Yes.
But also the skills that you learn as a teacher. If you can be a teacher, you can probably be anything. If you can cope with like a class full of kids of all different levels, abilities, characteristics, personalities, you know, coming in from whatever they're doing and then try and teach a lesson on, I don't know, French or geography or something really odd, which will be of no use to them, and still keep them entertained, still have something to say to them, still have an enjoyable hour with them, then you could probably do anything.
Yes. That's right. You know what? And I'm going to stop myself. That was so brilliant. We could really go there, but we're not here for that. Like I want to get, but that was so many. I'm going to keep that whole spiel and play that instead. Like I don't have to say anything. Listen to Benedict. This was, I agree with it. That was great. So, but really, the few I will ask, what was the class size you had to deal with? Just, you know, for kind of.
I was in England. We call them secondary schools, but here they're kind of high school. So they're from years 7 to 11, sometimes to years 13. And so the class sizes varied. You know, for the low ability ones, I might have as few as 12. But for the high ability classes, I'd have anything up to sort of 30, 35 kids occasionally.
Yeah.
I was mostly an IT teacher. So, you know, in computer suites, because that was my background before that. But I'm also a history buff. I'm coming from a country with 2,000 years of history. It's everywhere you go in England. So I used to teach a lot of history classes as well, humanities as well. And then for the later part of my career as a teacher, I moved into what we call supply teaching in England. It might be a standby teacher over here, where you'll get a call in the morning saying, we need you to go out to this school, and substitute teacher. So I might have been anything from a physics teacher to a French teacher to a PE teacher. So I did that for about 2 or 3 years as well. And I loved doing that.
Okay. So that kind of answered that question. So the transition to teaching was a really sit down, you know, figure out, and also you utilized help of other trusted sources. So you weren't reckless. Like you didn't make a Facebook post, hey everybody, I don't know what to do. Like what do you have to say? It wasn't everybody, but you seek other opinions and get that help and try to get out of that place. So that's excellent. It brought you to teaching. Now you did that for a number of years, I believe around 15 overall, the different types. So, and the last thing you just said was that this was better. This was going down the path. You were, you know, life was okay. I feel I have meaning. I have purpose, but you still weren't done. So then eventually you transitioned to breathwork. So what was that journey?
I've been fortunate in my life to have had a number of burnouts and breakdowns.
I love
where
please, I'm sorry, go ahead. Please go.
Because they are moments that you get to really, you know, make some decisions in your life. And after sort of 10 years of normal high school teaching, I burnt out again. And I'm sure every school is different, and every country system, every education system is different, but it is an unforgiving system in the United Kingdom. It will take everything from you, and the good teachers will give everything. So for 6, 7, 8 years, I gave absolutely everything to my classes, and I exhausted myself. I broke myself. And I had an amazing time, and I was a great teacher. But by the end of it, I was looking at all these sort of 16, 17-year-olds leaving school, going out and having an amazing time, going off on adventures and like doing things. And I kind of thought to myself, hang on, I think I'd rather be where they are than sat in the classroom. So I hit my late 30s, early 40s, and I thought, okay, I've kind of done my time now. I feel like I've karmically earned a little bit of, you know, a bit of love in the bank. I need to go and do something different. So I jacked in my teaching job, and I decided to have some time off, and I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen. But I ended up flying to Mumbai in India, and I bought a motorbike, and I got lost in India for 4 or 5 months with no real plan. And that was a journey of incredible self-discovery, of incredible growth and adventure. And then I came back, and I still kept my feet in teaching for the next 4 or 5 years. I'd still go and do some supply teaching here and there, some substitute teaching, and I sometimes did long contracts. I worked for a year in one school, and then, you know, a couple of years later, I did a year's contract in another school. But from that point on, teaching wasn't my only path. I started discovering other things that I wanted to do in me, other things that I wanted to teach, which weren't necessarily in a mainstream education setting.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that all make sense?
It does. It does. So because we started off, you told me I was, and you complimented me on being, polite. I didn't cut you off the second time you said it, but I want the listening audience to know that I also hear this gentleman who clearly is like 24 years old, just no wrinkles anywhere. Is talking about 30s and his 40s. I don't know what he's talking about either.
I'm 47 now.
Okay, all right. You know what? This.
Does it help if I take my hat off?
Not really. I mean,
and you can see I'm as
okay. I see.
as
Okay, I'm about to say. Some people say, okay, I hear you. I see it. I see some one little, but 47. That's incredible. That's the the peace and the and again. So we're gonna come back to. I love how you phrase it because it's all mindset. So this isn't a path of every day was 100% better than the last one. Like it's been a journey. I can tell that from 2 stories. But your perspective is that you welcome those opportunities because they did give the whole, if it didn't kill you, it makes you stronger. It did give you something to learn. It did give you a lesson. It did help shape where you are now. And that's incredible. I mean, for me, it's always been or I don't want to say always, but for a very long time been transparent with my mental health, and that included a official diagnosis of bipolar as early as December, with the other 3, the stress, anxiety, and depression, for like 17 years, 16 years. So regardless of the actual naming, I don't know how much that, applies to you, but the fact is again, that humility to say, I know I can't tough it out. I know I'm not just going to lift through it. Like, no, there's going to be a combination. I'm going to do some mental evaluation, some physical, evaluation and bettering myself, emotional. I'm going to tap into that. So to hear that or to see that in another individual and another male, it is great. I think, we need, it's that so-called normalize it. We need more people to own up to it.
We really do. Yeah. And we need more men that do this. We need more men who have the sensitivity, the intelligence to kind of look within and not just to accept the traditional male stereotypes and role models that we have given that aren't really applicable in today's society and culture. We are redefining ourselves, and we need to. And there needs to be more, positive role models that kids can look up to now, and they can see that is really what a man should be: kind and generous and strong and sensitive and supportive, not the kind of traditional old-fashioned models of the kind of macho man who doesn't express feelings or doesn't have feelings, is just a warrior or someone who pushes on. That isn't really relevant in today's society, and we need to be able to offer something different.
Yes, absolutely. So when you say, that even though we are in different parts of the country, the education system, very similar. There are a lot of great great educators who just get drained. It gets taken advantage of. Their passion gets taken advantage of, and their, you know, the compensation across definitions of that is not come back to the educator for the effort that is expected of them or is taken from them. So that's not changed. And then the whole, the hyper masculinity that's toxic, that's counterintuitive. Yeah, that's global. So great point. So all right, so now it was the, it's the teaching kind of, got back on the path, and then introduction into breath work, and then eventually it was you taking it on, individually or directly for, representing your own company. So I guess part of, I'm sorry, I forget part of it, but you went out to India. That was some, just a journey to just go explore, just go live, just start over, just then that led to, that led to the company, kind of getting started. So what, like, maybe, I don't know, what maybe an opening for that is, do you remember what you intended it to be? And do you kind of, is like where you are now, or are those completely different?
I do.
Okay.
I can speak with absolute clarity and certainty about that without any hesitation.
Cool.
Now, all of my life, I'd kind of been looking for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if, when I was at school, when I was young, there was all those annoying kids who knew exactly what they wanted to do with their lives.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I used to look at them with really, great jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'd mock them as well, but it was really with great jealousy, because I always wanted to feel that calling and that kind of, this is my purpose, this is what I need to be doing. And in my 30s, I kind of felt that a little bit with teaching. And although teaching was part of it, maybe it wasn't in the school system, that wasn't working. At that time, as also, I was a practicing Buddhist. So I was doing a lot of meditation, a lot of studying Dharma as well. But again, it wasn't completely right. It never sat properly within me. And then when I left teaching full time and I started to do different things like traveling to India, I started living a little bit more. I trained to be a yoga teacher. And so I started incorporating that into my daily routine and teaching that. But it was in 2014 in Bali, in a place called Ubud in Bali, which is one of the great alternative spiritual centers in the world. There is a shaman behind every tree there. There is a witch doctor, behind every door. There is a yoga teacher. There is a spiritual leader or a guru there on every doorstep. I met a guy, a really friendly English guy, and we just got chatting. He was a normal guy. He looked like a guru because he had long white hair and white flowing cotton robes,
Right.
and pretty girls floating in the background. But actually, he was just a really genuine, normal kind of guy. And I asked him what he did, and he says, "Oh, well, I'm a breathwork teacher." And by that point, I'd been meditating for a long time. I'd been doing yoga. I'd been living a kind of enlightened life on the path of, spirituality. And when he said, "Would you like to come along and try it?" I kind of thought, well, I've been doing stuff like this for a long time, for sort of 15 years on a yoga mat and on a meditation cushion. Yeah, sure, I'll come and try some breathing. So I went along to his workshop, and there's about 30 of us in a room. And we did a few kind of preparatory exercises, almost like icebreakers, to kind of get people in the right space to do a breath work. And then he instructed us in a technique, and we lay down and we started breathing to music. And within 5 breaths, I went to a deeper place than I'd ever been to, a place of healing and transformation that I had no idea even existed. I'm not a particularly religious person, but I saw angels around me. And for someone who doesn't believe in particularly Christian kind of imagery, to see something metaphysical like that after, just a few breaths, I was, holy moly, what is going on here? And it was the most, and it wasn't just the visual of seeing something, but it was that feeling of connection to everyone else around me, to the world. It was like the most beautiful, almost like the most beautiful hallucinogenic trip, but on an emotional level, with nothing else apart from breathing. I felt so connected to everything. And within another 10 breaths, I thought, I've just done this by breathing. I need to take this out into the world, because this eclipses everything else that I have learned. Every yoga posture that I've learned, every meditation technique, everything that I thought I'd learned before suddenly just kind of, all right, doesn't really matter now. And that was the moment that I felt called, that I knew that this would be my path, this would be my destiny, if you like.
Yes.
It took me a couple of years to before I signed up to do the training with my teacher, and it was the first person I met, Anthony Abagnano of Alchemy of Breath.
Okay.
Who's a world famous breathwork teacher, and I was one of the first students in one of his first training courses, actually.
Nice.
And I qualified in 2018, and then I started Breathing Space pretty much immediately after that. And I started doing what he did. I started changing people's lives with just a few breaths.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and some of that story, I'm so glad you elaborated. Some of that story can be found at the about section. And that very point you said, you got there, very like small number of breaths, and it was almost sudden like the switch. It was like, yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's an incredible feeling. Now, excuse me, when you were talking about like when you were invited to do so, was it a standpoint of I've been doing something similar for 15 years, yoga and things like that, so I don't know what you can really add, but let's find out, or more so you're already kind of comfortable here, so let's see what else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, when I went to that breathwork session, I was, a bit cocky and a bit arrogant.
Yeah,
to be
okay.
honest.
Okay. That's what
Let's put it like that.
Fair. Okay. And immediately got shown.
And then I got a slap around the face.
Yeah, immediately.
I got put down in my place saying, all right, you think you know something?
Right. Watch this. All right. Okay. All right. Very good. Excuse me. So Breathing Space is actually a year and change as far as an official company of existence. Is that what
it's been 2.5 years now. I've been
2.5. Okay.
2018 I started.
Oh, okay. Oh, hey, I'm sorry. See, that's the first time the accent. I'm hearing 19.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Because you said it again. I'm like, yeah, I know that. Okay, 2018. Okay, so about 2.5 years. Very good. And you've been one of those situations where your personal achievements or your company accomplishments have just been palpable, like immediately, and again, that's something that you state. So I want to give you the opportunity to elaborate. I mean, you started from, obviously you started from some, a location, but at this point, your ability to travel, your ability to reach people, testimonials, written and video, like it's not bragging. You are achieving things. So yeah, talk about, those high moments, those wow moments, all that. Just
Sure. And it's really interesting you talk about bragging and kind of boasting and the testimonials. And I'm really, really happy to post those up on my website, because really it feels like it's not me. It's not me that's doing these things. My philosophy about teaching was the same as Leonardo da Vinci's about sculpting. When he was asked about how do you make these beautiful sculptures, he says, well, it's really simple. It's already in there. That beautiful statue is in this block of stone. All I am doing is just freeing it.
right.
And that was always my philosophy with teaching. All I do is I give people tools and I make spaces, and the rest of it is up to them. As a facilitator, that's all we have to do. We just have to make a space and let people grow and shine. So, and that's really all I do. It's not very difficult. So I have no problem, because it's not me that's doing this. Breathwork is the absolute one of the big tools that I have to do this, because its power is astonishing. We haven't had a chance to explore that yet, but hopefully we will have a chance to explore how that can actually work. But I started Breathing Space just running workshops. I was living in a city called Exeter in England, which is in the southwest corner, which is a bit like the Middle Earth of England, actually. It's a really beautiful area. It's a very magical area. It's a very old area. So I just started running workshops. But then I kind of started to think about it, and the business of breathwork is a bit similar to yoga. You know, it's actually very difficult to make a buck doing something like this. So I had to sit down and think, okay, I want to change the world. I want to really change the world. And I'm not shy about stating my ambition on this, because I think the world needs more healing, more transformation. And I think I have one of the paths that can do that. So I was always very ambitious about what I wanted to do. And teaching workshops you can only reach so many people. You can make one workshop a week, of which maybe 10, 15 people will turn up to. So my next strategy was, I started thinking, well, how about instead of just running 1 3-hour workshop a week, why don't I run a retreat and get people together for a weekend, and we'll be together for 3 days. And I'd never run a retreat before, but I somehow I found a retreat center. I booked it for a weekend, and 8 people came along and paid me £150 each, so what, about, I don't know, $200, not very much money, and it just covered my costs. But
right.
8 people, and me and my wife, we had an astonishing weekend. We did yoga and we did breath work. We went out into nature. We swam in ice cold streams, and we had this amazing. And I was kind of like, oh my goodness, this was amazing. And I charged £150 for that weekend. But really, when you look around, people are willing to pay a lot more than that for a weekend retreat. And I suddenly started to think, well, actually, with a weekend's work, I could probably earn $2,000 or $3,000, maybe $4,000, and I could give people an experience that will help change their lives. And so I started running retreats, and again, because I'm ambitious, not for myself, but because I felt it flow through me, I ran 20 retreats in 2 years, all over the world. I ran in Ibiza, in France, in Italy, in England. And they weren't just weekend retreats. I started running whole week-long retreats. I ran quite a few up in the French Alps in a famous city or town called Val d'Isère, which is 2,000 meters, which is just magical experience. And I have no real idea how it happened, but it all just flowed. And it went from just one workshop, and then 2 years later, suddenly I was in newspapers.
Right.
So it all just flowed, and that's how I kind of felt that I knew that it was working, and this is what I was meant to do, because it was easy and it was joyful and it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even from the very first one, basically anybody in the industry, you could tell them that their proof of concept can be essentially covered. That process could be covered. That's right there. So then you found, you made that first one work. It gave you the confidence. You have to build, that relative term of what is it worth? It's worth what people pay. It's worth whatever has them come out of the other end, giving you a compliment and leaving on a positive note, rather than focusing too much on how much the monetary value was. And then it's worth whatever gets you, you having a wife, you having a family, like taking care of you yourself, her, like that's what it's all worth. But as far as the signing, so I'm glad that you, I hope just that alone deserves a re-listen for people, just to understand. There's so many business concepts he covered right there. But just as simple as, as far as, assigning worth and understanding value and relating that to the next person. If you tell somebody I'm glad you said it earlier. If you tell somebody you do breath work, probably the first question they're going to ask is, what is that? So please, so you talked about, the business of making it work, but the concept itself, enlighten us, including me. I don't.
Well, if I told you, Jamal, that
Mm.
you had something with you at every single moment that could make every moment magical, that could make every moment that you live the most intense and powerful experience, would you want to know a bit more about it?
I think so, yeah.
And if I then said that it is something that is free, that is your birthright, that's something that is your inalienable right to have. Breathwork is, I've heard it said that our relationship to our breath is the most important relationship that we can have, because it is the bridge and the link between so many things with us.
Hmm.
It is the link between our conscious mind and our unconscious. Um, in terms of our body, there are things that we can control, like
Hmm.
moving our hands or speaking, but there's so many things our body just does naturally without us thinking. And our breath is one of those things that falls in the middle of those two things. We can control our breath, and yet our breath automatically happens. So we can use our breath to go inwards, connect to that deepest part of ourselves, that wisest, truest part of ourselves. I sometimes call breathwork meditation for people who can't meditate, or I call it therapy for people who don't want to do therapy,
Mm.
because you don't have to think about it, you don't have to talk about it, you don't really have to do anything apart from breathe. And the main technique I teach is something called conscious breathwork, which is a
Hmm.
particular style. But it does something. It's like the rocket fuel of breathwork, because breathwork is a huge industry. There's lots of different techniques that you can do. I'm sure you will have heard of breathwork techniques to calm you down, kind of
Hmm.
meditative breathwork techniques. So alternate nostril breathing is one actually Hillary Clinton made famous for when she was running for president. She said she used that a lot. But there's lots of breathwork techniques to help calm down. But there's breathwork techniques to enliven you. There's breathwork techniques you can do to improve your respiratory fitness. The ones that I'm mostly interested in are the deepest, most powerful ones of energetic and transformational change. I sometimes call it plant medicine, drug-free plant medicine. So you may have heard of something called ayahuasca or cambo, or many of these kind of hallucinogenic trips
Okay.
that are used in a ceremonial aspect for personal growth and transformation. Breathwork is like that, but with no of the side effects. It can be like deep, intense prayer. And when you do it for a long time, it's almost like a conversation. It's almost like a conversation with the divine, with whatever your version is of that, which is a big thing. I'm making a lot of big claims there. I'm very aware of that. And I was pretty skeptical when I came
Sure.
across it. But I could talk about this a lot, but how about we do a little demonstration of it, Jamal?
All right, put me on the spot. All right.
Would you like to do this? And it's a bit hard to do because you're holding space here and you're hosting this meeting. But if you'll feel confident enough to relax and just open up to the flow, we can give it a go if you like. And in the breath work, people get to feel everything from sadness and grief to joy and sometimes rage. We get to hold people in that space, and it is an incredible honor to do that.
Yeah.
And we
Thank
always have a chance to just share afterwards. So if there is something that you felt or experienced in that little breath work, I'd love to invite you to share now with what your experience was.
Absolutely. I'm sure, there's just the reality is there's going to be some part of it that say, that was internal and, and all that, but I will definitely be happy to share that. It went from the shallow, the entry level to like, wow, I really just sat here with my eyes closed and my mouth open for like the past 5 minutes on my show. You know what I mean? But it was okay to do that. And I think I was able to appreciate that I wouldn't have done that in years past because I wouldn't have had other experiences. I would have said, my definition of comfort and comfort zone and stepping out, trying new, outside of what I know. So I just appreciated that. I absolutely did focus on two particular situations and particular people and particular emotions. Although I also did, went with your cues. I also did step to the young lady who I learned past yesterday, to the to different emotions. I focused in on a few, but I also explored multiple before coming back to center on what I wanted to center on. So, yeah, no, it was an incredible experience. It really was. In just a few minutes, and just right at my house on, with not planned. We didn't say we were going to do this. You didn't. I could have said, nope, not going to do it. Right. So no, I really appreciated that.
And that would have been fine as well, Jamal, because breathwork is an empowering experience. It's not for me as a facilitator to tell you your experience. This is you stepping into your sovereignty and for you doing what you need to do. So thank you for allowing yourself to, and I want to recognize that you let yourself,
Absolutely.
because you trusted yourself now, which you may have done in the past, to allow yourself to go to those spaces inside. So I want to honor that as well.
Absolutely.
That you allowed yourself to be open up to that and to going some of those places that you went to, and some of those emotions and situations
Absolutely.
that you felt to as well.
When I was still just thinking it was stress and depression and things like that, it was manifesting in poor breathing. And what that led to, I've always pretty much been this build. I've never been, fat, period. But I had sleep apnea. It was just, it seemed like it was a result of not paying any attention to the breathing, having no, it was all fully unconscious. Whatever it was thank goodness the body was doing it. And so there would be those times where the stress would hold me up. I still kind of have hunched shoulders, but it would also be that, like the little hesitation, the pause, to stop, and all that occurring throughout overnight and leading to poor sleep in the morning. So, saw a specialist, diagnosed with sleep apnea, had a CPAP machine, but in the meantime, the mental health motivated me to, or the therapy got me to make that a priority, to take deep breaths, to be mindful of that, and just that awareness. Also, the machines help. We fast forward 2-3 years, 3-4 years, where that machine was no longer, it was old, obsolete, and I went back to do another sleep study. I'm thinking I still have it. That's fine. It's an uncomfortable mask, but whatever. I like living, so I'm okay with breathing overnight. So I'll do it, and I go take my next sleep test, and they said, you don't have it anymore. So just the process of, a mindset, also a, prioritization, managed to do some things. And so that was, to me, that's just, inhale, exhale, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. That's not me having any knowledge of where it is that, that you now have an expert on. So it's like, yeah, I completely see that even a level 2, a next step could can do it. So like you said, I appreciate that you gave so much of the, the side effects and the things for people to worry about and the conditions for which people should be like. This isn't a, this isn't a one size fits all, you're like, no, every individual needs to figure out what it's going to work for them. And I appreciate that. That you made that very clear. Yeah.
Because there's a couple of things I'll talk about first of all. Sure. Actually, one of my fundamental beliefs, and this is on the front page of my website as part of my manifesto, is I believe that everybody is their own best healer and their own best teacher. Mm-hmm. And their body instinctively knows, not having to be conscious of it, knows what they need to do to heal and transform. And all we really have to do is to give ourselves the space and the time, maybe some of the tools, maybe some energy to do that. And so with something like breath work, it is so useful for almost everyone, for almost every situation, because it's not the breath, it's their bodies that are doing it. And we can modify the breathing techniques maybe for different people with different conditions, but really it's just trusting that everyone already has everything that they need inside them. Mm-hmm. And then really interesting that you talked about sleep apnea. and breathing around that. This is one of the things that is really fascinating about breathwork when you really start to study physiology of breathwork. And there's some amazing breathwork techniques that you can do that don't involve putting a mask on when you sleep, that can revolutionize sleep. And it's going to be really counterintuitive when I tell you what it is. But I am very happy to recommend some books or some practices to try if you would like around that.
Okay. 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 Yeah, no, I'll tell you this. I mean, we're not done now, but I already know this. So this is like, we have to put, because this clearly can go a lot of ways. And I think that's why it's so great. I mean, that's a testament to doing what you do well. 50 minutes, an hour, whatever this ends up being, should not be the totality of who you are and what you represent. It should be an introduction, an invitation for somebody to follow up, right?
Sure.
That's absolutely what should be happening here. Let me see. No, that's what I want to talk about. So you said to me, this is all within ourselves, and it can be free. And again, I keep coming back, and I'll just go ahead. Website, mention it again at the end. It is makesomebreathingspace.com.
Mm-hmm.
So makesomebreathingspace.com. And one of his sections on the website is free classes, free offerings, and things like that. So one thing that I've seen business shift in with YouTube and other such resources, and people remembering that libraries exist all this time, even though we've taken advantage of them, is there are so many resources that exist. So one of the problems, so you are an educator. One of the things about service that helps people, that when you say counterintuitive, those are the ones where people want to say, okay, well, where's the discount? And, sure is this and that's, it's like, the reality of it is, if you can go figure it out, then it's free. Right. And if you do, great. Like, if somebody I'm a proponent of people becoming smarter, you're a proponent probably of that too, but of people learning this space, this, finding this journey with you. So if everybody is just wake up tomorrow and be better, for the most part, that's a great thing. However, if you are now trying to get my time and my resources for help, then yes, then that's what the exchange is. So that I would think that's very similar to you, because like I said, they can go to your website, click free stuff right next to about, and
Mm-hmm.
and if that's enough for somebody, then fantastic. Probably like what I will do. I promise you what I would do. Obviously, I was going to promote this anyway. I will share that particular sequence, in exercise and all that. So that's kind of, these are the things, again, practical, being solid people, but also solid business practices. They all can work together, and that's why honestly, like we are two people who probably got in, we're in the same space as far as online 2-3 weeks ago, emailed each other a couple of times, 3-4 days ago from when this was recorded. But I don't know who he is. And the different levels of commonality that I've heard, that I've said and not said. I have an IT background too. Like it's incredible. Like that, that this has all come, from this conversation. It's amazing. It's amazing to me.
It's really beautiful, actually, Jamel.
Yeah.
Like, I feel such a connection to you right now.
Yeah.
It feels like we could be, brothers or hanging out with buddies for a long
right,
time.
Like we already were.
Problem hanging out with you,
Yeah.
I think we'd have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So, that might have to manifest like in earnest one day, who knows? So we'll speak today. Yeah, we'll start. I think, now we'll start kind of wrap, because like I said, one thing, like I said, we truly get to the end. I want to make sure people know how to follow you. I saw you have a section of other, of other interviews. That's always, I said that in one of my other, I've never been like clearly there are a bunch of podcasters out there, right? I'm not, like, so you have some solid interviews you posted. I would encourage people to do that to get to know about you, you know, and eventually contact you. The question I had, how has business evolved in any sort with the widespread of with the outbreak of COVID, you know, as far as like having people tune in more to breath work, you know, changing how they were able to work with you. Yeah, just like what changed?
It's in great question. And so where we left it on the business side before, I was running retreats. But in this kind of business, there's a kind of progression that you want, or you can run classes and then you can run workshops and then you can maybe run retreats. But really the most value thing that you can do is you can train people. And you can train people to become teachers as well. So I started doing this about a year ago. I started training people to become breathwork facilitators, to go on a really deep, 10-month journey, which is about how to teach breathwork, but it is also a deep personal journey as well. And when people have just like I did, I experienced breathwork and I was like, all right, I've got to learn how to do that. So I started teaching people how to facilitate breathworks. And now I made the transition to teaching online last September. And so I started my first facilitator training course in September, and that finished in June. And I've just started my second facilitator training. So I was kind of about 6 months before everyone else having to go online. And that was really because of lifestyle changes. Like I moved to Canada from England, and I, it's a big country here. It's not the same as in England where you've got, 30 million people within an hour's commute of where you are. Here I've got, maybe 1 million people within an hour. So I can't run workshops, I can't run retreats here in the same way. So I needed to go online, and just because of personal reasons, like I'm starting a family, so I can't go off on retreats all around the world right now. I have to be here. And so, but actually when you look at it from a business point of view, going online is such an amazing opportunity because I can connect with people all over the world, people like you. I would, if I was just running workshops or retreats, there's no way that we would have connected in this way.
Exactly.
Or anyone who's listening to this. So it's been a real opportunity of outreach for me.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
And in terms of what breathwork, we will only know the repercussions of the past 6 or 7 months and everything that is, this will ripple out through the rest of our lives.
Oh, yes.
What this means.
Yes.
And so the tools that people are going to need to cope with this, I mean, there are the physical aspects of this and the economic, but there is going to be so many emotional implications of having to be forced to be locked down, to not have any touch or social physical contact with people. And breathwork is just one of many, many tools that will help people process. It's not going to heal things. It's not going to kind of make everything go away. Breathwork isn't about that. It's about allowing us to process that, to allow us to kind of give choices around that, and to move on from it. So I think in that way, breathwork is only going to become more popular. I sometimes call it the yoga 2.0, next level, because everyone knows yoga. They didn't 20 years ago, but now it's everywhere.
Right.
Breathwork is coming. Breathwork is a wave that is going to hit everyone.
Yes. No, 100. Well said. Like we're going to lives have changed. They're going to change. Lifestyles are going to change. What we prioritize is going to change. I guess the internet still existing, social media is still existing. The ability to brag will not go away, but the look at me in a crowd.
Yeah.
That part's going to change. So with that, there's the whole keeping up with the Joneses phrase of trying to outdo and impress the next person. Like that's not going to stop, but how we go about doing it is going to change.
Sure.
All that to say, so there will be room for self, analysis and proof growth. Just for the simple fact of a lot of people, whether you admit to having an official diagnosis or not, are our mental health was challenged. Everybody doesn't have mental illness, but we all had something happened in the past, 5-6 months or whatever. So yeah, this is, and education isn't going anywhere. It just so happens, I made a company that I always wanted to have a international focus or an online capability for the exact same reason. So when this happened, for me, it was just crazy in and of itself, but it didn't like fully disrupt my professional career, because I'm used to trying to be diverse when possible, right? So it's there's a lesson there for anybody who should choose to grab that and continue to adapt for whatever that means in your own life. But no, I'm like, really, this is fascinating from the standpoint of like, I know I could really like, I don't have much, I could really sit here and chat for like 3 hours, but but I will not. So what I want to do, because honestly, we already have our contact information, so you will hear from me personally. So now let's go for those who have seen this and they too had, were impressed and intrigued and want to learn more. Talk about your website again. What are the other methods of contact? Your social media presence.
I would recommend, if anyone is interested in breathwork, come along to my website, makesomebreathingspace.com, and I've got a free introductory course there called Take a Breath. And it's just an online course. You can do it at your own pace, but it introduces some 4 or 5 different breathwork techniques for different situations. So as one for really calming if you're ever feeling anxious or overwhelmed, there's a great breath. My favorite go-to breathwork technique for that. There's a breathwork technique for connecting you with nature, and there's a little bit about the breathwork that we did together as well. If that really excites you, the breathwork that we did, the conscious breathing, I would invite you to come along to my online breathing space, which is a free workshop I run every single Thursday. It's set in UK time at 8:30 p.m. UK time, so that is probably about 5:30. No, probably about 4:30 or 3:30 for you, I think it would be, on EST. But you just work back from 8:30 p.m. UK time, and that is an hour which is held by either me or one of my facilitators, where we do a 30-minute conscious breath work on a theme. The details of how to get in touch with that are also on the website as well. And I would say, to start off with, by doing those 2 things, come and try and find out breathwork. I am just interested in spreading this magical, amazing gift of breathwork. Then there's hundreds and hundreds of other breathwork facilitators. Go and find someone and go and breathe more. And when you breathe more, you will feel more. And when you feel more, when you allow yourself to feel, it can sometimes be uncomfortable, but that is also the path of healing and transformation, which more people need to be on. So if that's with me, great. I will do my best to hold you in a way that feels right for you. But if it's not with me, that's absolutely fine as well. I really am just so passionate about this. I want people just to breathe more.
Awesome.
Was that okay?
Absolutely. From the website, you will see in the lower left, there's the Facebook link, there's the Instagram link, there's the YouTube page, and there's a general email address. So but funnel that all funnels through the website. So makesomebreathingspace.com. Again, they got the entry level, the introductory information, and if it's so chooses, then you go further. But again, just that concept of this space that I'm in, that you're in, that I'm in, is truly where I want to be. And there's so many people that can benefit from it that I can't possibly serve them all. So some are going to come to you for this service, to me for my service. Some are going to go elsewhere. If you came out better, that's really what it's about. That's that's perfect. Listen, Benedict, like it's incredible. Like, for real, I'm to the met. Like, you would think, for what it did for me, you would think this was somebody where like a person came and found me and said, "Let me introduce you to this person who you have so much in common with. and you all have this commonality and these things, that you both share, and these experiences, and you're going to tell your story and he's going to tell his story, and and then there was no way I knew this was going to happen, but I'm so very glad to have gone through this journey. I hope that whether people had to the same level of enjoyment that I did, I hope you got something out of it. If you did, go support, go follow him, learn more about him. Absolutely.
Oh, well, I really feel that as well, Jamal. And you got to hear a bit about me and my story, but I haven't had the chance to do that with you yet as well. So when I restart my podcast, I would love to invite you on as a guest and to hear about your journey as well, if you would come
It'll
along.
be my honor. It'll be my honor. So it's out there. It's in the universe. It's recorded. It's gonna be posted. Now you have to start a podcast, and I have to be one of your guests.
Yes,
you gotta have it. Absolutely. All right, Benedict. Thank you so very much. Thank you all for tuning into the Smart Dumb podcast. And until next time, you all have a fantastic day.